Good evening, all, and welcome back to Dark Fears. Tonight, we journey into the forgotten heart of Pennsylvania, where small towns cradle secrets darker than their coal mines, and where 10 real people discovered that the greatest horrors do not announce themselves with fanfare, but instead whisper through empty streets, hide behind friendly faces, and wait in basements no one dares to enter. These are not legends passed down through generations. These are documented accounts of ordinary individuals who stumbled into nightmare scenarios they never saw coming, events that law enforcement still discusses in hushed tones, and mysteries that continue to haunt the communities where they occurred. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to Dark Fears for daily true horror content that will keep you up at night. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when the darkness calls. Now, let us step into the shadows of the Appalachian deep woods, where civilization ends and terror begins. Our first story begins in a small town in western Pennsylvania. The kind of place where everyone knows each other, and life seems slow and simple. But at the edge of this town stands an abandoned textile factory, a hulking structure of brick and rusted metal, empty for decades, yet never quite silent. Locals avoid it. They whisper about workers who disappeared there long ago. Men and women who simply never came home. Some say the factory still remembers them, holding on to echoes of their last moments. The stories are chilling. People report hearing the sounds of machinery running, even though the factory has been unused for years. Screams echo through the empty halls. Shadows flit behind broken windows, moving just out of sight. Some nights, a faint light flickers inside, though no one has dared enter in decades. Curiosity got the better of a group of urban explorers one cold autumn evening. They came armed with flashlights, cameras, and a false sense of bravery. As they stepped through the rusted gates, a sudden chill ran through the air. The silence was heavy, almost suffocating, broken only by the creak of loose metal under their feet. They moved cautiously through the factory floor. Rusted machines stood frozen in time, their gears stiff and lifeless. Yet there was a feeling, almost as if the factory was watching them, waiting. One of them, the youngest, noticed scratches on the walls, symbols etched deep into the bricks, strange markings that didn't seem like the work of children or vandals. The air grew colder. The shadows seemed to twist and lengthen, moving along the walls in ways that made no sense. Something unseen was shifting in the corners of their vision. Then it happened. A sudden clanging echoed through the hall. One of the explorers called out, but no answer came, only the echo bouncing back at them, mocking, almost alive. Another clanging, louder this time, from the upper floor. The group froze, realizing they were not alone. As they climbed the stairs to investigate, a door slammed behind them, cutting off the way back. Panic set in. Flashlights flickered, casting dancing shadows across the walls. One of them reached out for a railing and touched nothing but cold air. The stairwells seemed to stretch unnaturally, as if the factory itself had shifted around them. Voices whispered in the darkness. Not faint echoes. Real voices, calling names, calling the explorers by name. Heart pounding, they realized some of the missing workers' spirits, if they were spirits, were still trapped inside these walls. One explorer disappeared without a sound, swallowed by the shadows. The others barely escaped, fleeing down the streets of the small town, gasping for air. When they looked back, the factory seemed to loom larger, darker, as if satisfied with the night's events. Locals say the factory still waits. At night, the faint sound of machinery can be heard, and if you're brave or foolish, you might catch a glimpse of a shadow moving past a broken window. a reminder that some buildings remember those who vanish within their walls, and some secrets refuse to stay buried. As night falls over the small town, the factory begins to change. Locals say it isn't just abandoned, it's alive in ways no one can explain. At first, it's subtle. A faint clatter echoes through the broken windows, like distant machinery coming to life. People dismiss it until it grows louder, until it becomes unmistakable. Doors that have been locked for years creak open on their own. The smell of oil and rust lingers in the night air, though no one has touched a machine in decades. Some swear they can hear the rhythmic pounding of looms, a sound that shouldn't exist anymore. A lonely whistle, a metal bang, echoes through the empty halls like a warning. And then there are the shadows. Figures moving silently across the factory floor, glimpsed in fleeting reflections of broken glass. Shapes that vanish when anyone looks directly at them, leaving only a cold emptiness behind. The shadows seem aware, deliberate, as if they're observing, waiting for someone foolish enough to enter their domain. People walking near the factory at night report footsteps that follow them, stopping abruptly when they stop. Sometimes a door slams somewhere inside, though the building is completely sealed. On windy nights, the locals say you can hear whispers carried on the breeze. Names of workers long gone, calling from the darkness. Those who have dared to step inside speak of the walls feeling closer than they should, the ceilings pressing down. Lights flicker without explanation. And the air, it's heavier, colder, like the factory is breathing around them. Some claim to see the silhouettes of men and women at the machines, frozen in time, repeating tasks over and over, trapped between the past and the present. Even decades later, the factory refuses to let go of its secrets. Each strange noise, each flicker of shadow. It's a reminder that something in that place doesn't want to be forgotten. Something waits, patient, silent, and hungry for attention. And if you're listening closely, some say, you might just hear it calling your name next. One crisp autumn evening, a group of urban explorers arrived at the factory. Young, confident, armed with flashlights and cameras, they laughed nervously as they pushed open the rusted gates. None of them could ignore the stories, but they thought of them as just legends. Until the moment they stepped inside. The air hit them first, cold, heavy, and metallic. Every step echoed unnaturally through the vast, empty halls. Shadows stretched along the walls, twisted by the flickering beams of their flashlights. At first, it seemed like harmless exploration. But then the first sound came. A low metallic clang somewhere far ahead, though no machinery had moved in decades. One of them, the youngest and most eager, wandered toward the sound. The others called after him, but their voices bounced back eerily, distorted. He didn't answer. The group hurried after him, heartbeats pounding in their ears, but he was gone, vanished, as if swallowed by the darkness itself. Panic set in. The remaining explorers ran through the labyrinth of corridors, calling his name. And that's when it started. The whispers. Not soft, not distant, but clear, almost intimate. Names, repeated over and over, echoing through the halls as if the walls themselves were speaking. Michael, come here. Don't be afraid. They froze in terror. The voices weren't coming from one direction. They surrounded them. Every hallway, every shadow seemed alive. The temperature dropped suddenly, their breaths forming clouds in the dark. The factory seemed to shift around them. Doors that had been open moments ago were now sealed tight. Windows reflected faces that weren't theirs, staring silently, judging, waiting. Each step they took felt like 100. The sounds of their own movements were swallowed by heavier, deeper noises. Whispers, soft footsteps, metal scraping against concrete. Their flashlights flickered, casting the shadows into grotesque shapes, moving faster than their eyes could follow. It was as if the factory itself was alive, guiding them or trapping them. They found doors that shouldn't exist, corridors looping back impossibly. Every turn revealed something new. More whispers, more shadows, fleeting glimpses of their missing friend. And then, a scream cut through the darkness. It was theirs? Was it his? They couldn't tell. Panic fully took over. Yet somehow, the factory seemed to slow their escape, prolonging the terror. Hours, or maybe minutes later, they stumbled outside. The cold night air never felt so welcoming. But their friend was gone, vanished without a trace. They looked back at the looming building, the broken windows reflecting moonlight, and felt deep in their bones that the factory had marked them, that some part of it had followed them home. Some part of it would never let go. Locals say the factory waits for anyone foolish enough to enter. And those whispers you hear when you're nearby, perhaps it's not just the wind. Perhaps it's calling your name next. Even after the explorers escaped, the factory's mysteries didn't end. Locals who pass by at night swear the air grows unnaturally cold, as if invisible hands brush past. Some say the temperature can drop in a single step, sending shivers down your spine. These cold spots are not just strange. They feel alive, as though the factory itself is breathing, watching, waiting. Inside, the walls are covered in strange symbols, deeply carved, almost ritualistic, some resembling ancient markings, others unrecognizable. No one knows who made them, or why. Some say they appeared decades ago, after the factory fire that destroyed part of the building. Yet the fire records are incomplete. Several workers who were supposed to be there disappeared entirely. Their names were never recorded, no memorial, no obituary, just gone. The fire itself adds another layer of terror. It's said the flames didn't just consume wood and fabric, they consumed something more. Some claim you can still smell smoke on certain nights, even though the factory has been empty for decades. The smell carries a hint of something metallic, something human, mingled with the lingering scent of oil and rust. And then there's the history you won't find in books. Local elders whisper that the factory was more than a place of work. Some workers reported seeing figures moving among the machines late at night. Others claimed to hear voices arguing, pleading, as though someone, or something, was trapped in the walls. After the fire, these stories multiplied. Shadows moving in the broken windows, lights flickering inexplicably. The building, they say, never truly went dark. The combination of cold spots, unexplainable carvings, and the shadow of the past makes the factory one of Pennsylvania's most disturbing landmarks. It's not just abandoned. It's alive with memory, with fear, with secrets that refuse to die. And if you dare to step inside, some say the factory will remember you too, carving your presence into its long, dark history. Today, the factory stands silent, its windows broken, its walls scarred by time. Yet the locals still avoid it. They cross the street rather than pass close by, and children are warned never to venture near after dark. Even the bravest of teenagers who dare to explore for a thrill usually return with pale faces and trembling voices. One old man, who has lived in the town his entire life, says it plainly. That factory, it eats people who wander too far. His eyes grow distant when he speaks, as if remembering something he should never have seen. The town has learned to listen to him. Some believe the building hungers, feeding on curiosity, on fear, on those who ignore the warnings etched into its very walls. No one really knows what happens inside. Maybe it's the shadows, maybe the spirits of the missing workers, or maybe something far darker. But one thing is certain. The factory has left a mark on the town, a reminder that some places are better left alone, some doors never opened, and some stories never forgotten. So, if you ever find yourself near a forgotten building in a quiet town, think twice before stepping inside. Some doors, some halls, they remember you long after you leave. Our second story takes us to a remote hollow in Pennsylvania, a place where dense woods seem to swallow the sunlight, and the roads are narrow, winding, and rarely traveled. Only a handful of residents live here, and they all share the same warning. Stay inside after dark. Strange things happen in these woods, things no one can fully explain. For decades, locals have whispered about mysterious lights that appear in the forest at night. Small, glowing orbs, floating just above the ground, drifting through the trees. Some say they are harmless, almost beautiful, like lanterns left behind by wandering spirits. But the stories tell a different truth. These lights are anything but safe. Hunters, hikers, and even residents report seeing the lights moving unnaturally. Sometimes they follow you, hovering just at the edge of your vision. Other times, they appear suddenly ahead, blocking your path, only to vanish when you try to approach. Dogs refuse to enter the woods, growling at empty air, their hackles raised as if sensing something human eyes cannot see. The legend says the lights have a mind of their own. Some nights, they float lazily through the trees. Other nights, they dart like fireflies, but always with purpose, always watching. Those who have tried to photograph them report their cameras malfunctioning, or the lights appearing in images where they weren't visible to the naked eye. One group of teenagers decided to test the stories. They ventured into the hollow on a moonless night, flashlights slicing through the blackness. At first, they laughed, joking about ghost lights and town myths. Then, the lights appeared. One by one, small glimmers hovered above the forest floor, moving closer with each step they took. The teens tried to follow, and that's when the first one vanished. The remaining friends heard whispers, soft, almost melodic at first, then harsh, urgent, calling their names from all directions. Panic set in. The lights multiplied, surrounding them, moving faster than any human could. Every tree seemed to shift, every shadow stretching toward them, and the forest itself felt alive, bending and twisting as if trying to trap them. When they finally stumbled back to the edge of the woods, the missing teen was gone. Days later, search parties found nothing. Not a trace, not a footprint, not a clue. The only thing they discovered were faint tracks leading deep into the hollow. Tracks that ended abruptly, as if swallowed by the earth itself. Locals continue to warn outsiders. The lights aren't just strange phenomena. They're intelligent, and they're dangerous. Some say they're the spirits of those lost long ago in the hollow, doomed to lure others into the forest. Others believe something older, something darker, waits just beyond the trees, guiding the lights, deciding who gets to leave and who doesn't. If you ever find yourself near the hollow after nightfall, don't follow the lights. Don't try to capture them. Because once they notice you, they may never let you go. The hollow is not a place for the curious or the brave. Hunters who venture in at night tell stories that make even the most skeptical pause. They speak of glowing orbs, drifting silently between the trees, following them no matter which path they take. At first, they seem harmless, floating lazily like fireflies, until they start to move with purpose, keeping pace, mimicking every step, every turn. Dogs refuse to enter these woods. Even the calmest, most obedient pets growl and bark at empty air. Their hair stands on end, their eyes locked on shadows that humans can barely perceive. Some owners swear their dogs will not cross the forest's edge, shaking, whining, as if warning their humans, do not go further. It isn't just the orbs or the dogs that unsettle visitors. There's a feeling, a presence that wraps around you, cold and suffocating, as if the trees themselves are closing in. Every snapped branch, every rustle of leaves sounds deliberate, like something unseen is moving behind you, waiting for a moment to strike. Even the wind seems to carry whispers, voices that imitate your own name, calling from deeper in the forest. Hunters report equipment failing in strange ways. Flashlights dim and flicker for no reason. GPS devices lose signal. Compasses spin endlessly, leaving them disoriented, trapped within the hollow's shifting paths. And sometimes, just at the edge of vision, something flickers. A shadow moving between the trees, watching, waiting. The locals say it is not the forest that's dangerous. It's what lives within it, what uses the forest as a trap. The lights, they warn, are not merely a spectacle. They're lures. And once you notice them, once they know you're aware, they begin to follow. Slowly at first, almost playfully. But the more you look, the closer they come, and the harder it becomes to leave. If you've ever walked near Pennsylvania Hollow after dark, you might have felt it yourself. A tug at the edge of your senses, a prickle on the back of your neck, the unnerving sense that you are being watched. Some nights, the hunters don't come back at all. And all that remains are tales whispered by those who survived, warning anyone who will listen. The hollow remembers. It sees, and it doesn't forget. One moonless night, a group of teenagers decided to test the legends. Armed with cameras and flashlights, they laughed nervously as they stepped into the hollow, joking about ghost stories and glowing orbs. At first, it was just darkness and the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. But then, the lights appeared. Small, glowing orbs floated above the forest floor, drifting between the trees. They were mesmerizing, almost beautiful, and completely unnatural. The teens raised their cameras, hoping to capture the phenomenon. But the more they tried to focus, the closer the lights seemed to move. Always just beyond reach, dancing around them in patterns that made no sense. Then, without warning, one of the teenagers vanished. No scream, no struggle, just gone, swallowed by the darkness of the forest. Panic erupted. The remaining friends called out, their voices shaking, but the hollow seemed to swallow their words. And then came the footsteps. Soft at first, distant, following them. Then whispers, carried on the wind, voices repeating their names, echoing from every direction. No one was there, yet the sounds were real. The air grew colder, heavier, and every shadow seemed to stretch toward them, moving independently of the trees and the wind. Something unseen was tracking them, studying them, waiting for the right moment. They ran, stumbling over roots and rocks, the whispers growing louder, circling them from all sides. The glowing orbs darted between the trees, sometimes ahead, sometimes behind, as if guiding them deeper into the hollow. Every turn led to confusion. Paths looped back on themselves. It was impossible to know which way led out. When they finally emerged at the edge of the forest, the missing teenager was nowhere to be found. Days of searching yielded nothing, no footprints, no traces, no clues. The hollow had claimed one more, and the lights had watched, silent and knowing, before retreating into the darkness until the next victim ventured too close. The locals say the hollow is patient. It waits. And the lights? They are not just lights. They are sentinels, guiding, watching, deciding who leaves and who never comes back. The hollow holds more secrets than anyone can explain. After the teenager's disappearance, locals began noticing strange signs that something far from ordinary roamed these woods. Tracks of an unknown creature appear overnight, deep in the soft forest soil. Tracks that vanish as mysteriously as they appear. No one recognizes them. They are neither human nor animal, and their strange, uneven patterns suggest movement beyond natural laws. And then there are the lights themselves. They do not simply float aimlessly. Witnesses swear they move with intention, almost like a predator stalking prey. Sometimes they move against the wind, cutting through dense trees as if they can see what is invisible to us. Other times, they form patterns, circling around a specific area, hovering over certain spots and then vanishing, only to reappear elsewhere, as if communicating with something or someone unseen. Hunters who have spent nights in the hollow speak of a terrible awareness. The lights seem to watch, judge, and even play with those who venture too close. Dogs that accompany them growl at nothing, refusing to advance, sensing an intelligence far beyond comprehension. The air itself feels alive, pressing against the skin, chilling the blood, making it almost impossible to think clearly. Some nights, the lights appear in places they should not be, deep in dense thickets or across small streams, ignoring all natural obstacles. People have reported stepping around fallen logs or boulders, only to find the lights moving through them as if they were no barrier at all. It's as though the hollow itself has a mind, guiding these orbs, testing those who dare enter. The local legend grows with each strange occurrence. The hollow is not just haunted, it is inhabited. The lights are not random. They are intelligent, aware, and patient. And for anyone wandering too far after dark, the hollow will notice, and it will never forget. Even today, the hollow remains a place most people avoid. The few residents who live nearby speak in hushed tones, warning outsiders with a seriousness that cannot be ignored. If you go into the hollow, you might not come back, they say. It is not an exaggeration. The stories of vanishing hunters, teenagers, and unexplained shadows have become part of the town's very fabric. Locals report that the hollow seems to remember those who enter, tracking their movements and learning their habits. The glowing lights are no longer seen as harmless curiosities. They are considered sentinels, guardians of the forest, luring the unwary deeper into its endless darkness. Those who attempt to follow them often vanish without a trace, leaving only the faintest footprints, or none at all. Even those who have survived encounters speak of lasting unease. The whispers in the wind, the feeling of being watched, and the inexplicable shadows linger in memory long after leaving the forest. Some claim they can still see the lights from a distance, dancing between the trees, waiting for the next visitor to notice them. The hollow is patient. It does not need to hurry. And the warnings of the townsfolk are simple but chilling. Some places are not meant to be explored. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved. And some lights are not meant to be followed. So if you ever find yourself near Pennsylvania Hollow after dark, remember the words of the locals. Think carefully before stepping past the edge of the forest. Because once you enter, you may never return, and the lights may already be watching you, moving silently through the trees, waiting for the moment you stray too far into the darkness. Our third story takes us to an old country road winding through the Pennsylvania countryside. It's narrow, lined with trees that arch over the asphalt, and it passes through an area so remote that even locals rarely travel it after dark. On the surface, it seems ordinary, quiet, unremarkable. But those who drive it at night know better. For years, drivers have reported strange occurrences on this road. Cars stall for no reason. Engines die suddenly, even when the gas tank is full. Headlights flicker or fail completely. And almost always, a dense, rolling fog appears, thick, white, and unnatural. It seems to cling to this road, and this road alone, appearing even on nights when the surrounding area is clear. The fog is the first warning. It rolls in silently, enveloping vehicles and trees alike. Visibility drops to just a few feet. Drivers describe it as an oppressive, almost living presence. Sounds are muted within it. Engines sputter, radios go silent, and sometimes faint voices seem to echo through the mist. Voices calling names, whispering warnings, or simply laughing softly from nowhere. One night, a couple driving home from a nearby town experienced it firsthand. They rounded a bend, and the fog appeared out of nowhere. Their car stalled. The headlights died, leaving them in near-complete darkness. They tried the engine again. Nothing. Panic set in. From somewhere within the fog, they heard the faint sound of tires on gravel, though no other cars were visible. And then came the whispers. Names, urgent, demanding, echoing from every direction. They stepped out, trying to see, to understand. The fog seemed to move around them, forming shapes in the dim light of the dashboard. Shadows appeared among the trees, twisting and turning as if alive. The road itself seemed to stretch and bend unnaturally, every turn repeating itself, trapping them in an impossible loop. They drove cautiously, but the engine refused to start again until the fog mysteriously lifted miles down the road. Locals warn travelers, the road has a mind of its own. Some who entered the fog were never seen again. Others returned shaken, speaking of lights moving against the wind, shadowy figures stepping from the mist, and a sensation of being followed, even after leaving the area. Some say the road is a portal or a trap, claiming those who wander too far after dark. Even today, the vanishing road keeps its secrets. Those who dare drive it are reminded that not every quiet country road is harmless. And some nights, when the fog rolls in, it waits, patient and silent, ready to claim anyone who dares travel too far into the unknown. The vanishing road isn't just dangerous because of the fog. It's dangerous because of what happens to those who enter it. Locals warn that once the mist rolls in, reality seems to warp. Drivers report hearing voices in the fog, voices of residents long gone, long dead. Some call out names of people who vanished years ago, while others whisper secrets from the past. The sounds are haunting, impossible to ignore, echoing from every direction. It doesn't stop there. Phones lose signal entirely. Radios cut out. GPS devices behave erratically, plotting impossible routes that lead in circles or straight into the mist. Even experienced travelers, familiar with the area, find themselves hopelessly lost, their sense of direction stripped away. The fog itself seems to stretch the road, bending distances and time, making it impossible to know how far one has traveled or how close to safety they might be. Some claim to see shadows moving just beyond the car headlights, figures standing silently at the edge of the fog, watching. They appear human at first, then twist into something unrecognizable, vanishing as quickly as they appear. Drivers describe a creeping dread, a sensation that the road itself is alive, observing them, guiding them deeper into the fog. Even the bravest locals avoid the road at night, Those who have returned speak of a feeling that something is following them, moving in the mist, patient and relentless. Every honk of the horn, every step outside the car is amplified by the silence around them, and the voices, the whispers. They get louder the further one drives, sometimes speaking truths only the dead could know. The vanishing road is patient. It doesn't rush, and it doesn't forgive. The fog waits for those foolish enough to enter, bending space and time, erasing direction, and whispering the names of those who vanished long ago, as if welcoming you into its growing list of the lost. One cold evening, a family decided to drive home along the vanishing road. The father, mother, and 2 children chatted quietly, unaware of the stories. But as they rounded a bend, the fog rolled in, thick and unnatural, swallowing the road behind them. Headlights barely penetrated the dense white mist, and the familiar landmarks disappeared from view. Then the father saw it. A figure standing at the side of the road. A tall, shadowy silhouette. Motionless, staring directly at the car. He blinked, and it vanished. He rubbed his eyes, convinced it was a trick of the fog or a reflection. But the children had seen it too, and the fear in their eyes told him this was no ordinary figure. The fog grew thicker. Every mile felt endless. The trees seemed to close in, bending over the road like they were alive, blocking any glimpse of the sky. Whispers drifted through the mist, soft at first, then urgent, echoing their names. The car engine sputtered, lights flickered, and for a moment, the family feared they would be trapped forever. Finally, they reached the edge of the hollow and emerged into the clear night. Relief washed over them, until they realized something was wrong. Hours had passed, though the drive should have taken mere minutes. Strangest of all, townsfolk looked at them with confusion. No one remembered seeing the vanishing road before. Locals they spoke to acted as if the road didn't exist, as if it had appeared and disappeared entirely for the family alone. The father never forgot the figure at the side of the road. Some nights, he swears he can see it again in his dreams, standing silently in the fog, waiting. And the town continues to whisper warnings. The road is alive. It chooses who it shows itself to. And those who travel through the fog may return, but only partially. Some part of them stays behind, lost to the mist forever. The vanishing road holds mysteries that go far beyond the modern era. Locals tell of tire tracks that appear one moment, then vanish entirely the next, erased as if the road itself refuses to acknowledge your passage. Witnesses describe leaving behind clear marks in the gravel or mud, only to find the road perfectly smooth upon return. Strangers who travel through the area often warn travelers, never drive the vanishing road after dark. Their voices carry urgency, tinged with fear, though most refuse to explain why. Those who ignore the warnings often vanish or return shaken, haunted by memories that cannot be fully explained. The road, they say, does not forgive mistakes. The stories surrounding the vanishing road stretch back over a century. Historical records and local folklore mention mysterious disappearances, some of which were never solved. One infamous case involved a young couple traveling home in the early 1900s. Their carriage vanished within the fog, leaving only scattered belongings behind. The town searched for days, but no trace of them was ever found. This story, and others like it, have been whispered from generation to generation, giving the road its ominous reputation. Some believe the road is a portal or a trap tied to the land itself. Others think it's a curse, something that awakens only under certain conditions, luring travelers into its fog. Whatever the truth, The Vanishing Road has a reputation for claiming those who stray too far into its misty embrace. And the locals' warnings are simple. Respect the road, or it may take more than your time. It may take you entirely. Even today, the Vanishing Road continues to haunt the memories of those who have encountered it. Locals speak of it in hushed tones, warning that the fog and the road itself are not bound by normal rules. Some nights, travelers report glimpsing it from a distance, a stretch of asphalt that seems to appear and disappear at will, cutting through the trees like a phantom. The road exists on the edge of reality, a place where time and space lose their meaning. Some who enter return disoriented, carrying memories that don't match the hours they've been gone. Others vanish completely, leaving nothing but whispers and shadows in the fog. It's as if the Vanishing Road is a bridge between worlds, a threshold that few understand and fewer survive. Many have wondered whether the road chooses its travelers, or if it waits patiently, unseen, for the right moment to reveal itself. And perhaps that's the most terrifying thought of all, that the road is patient, that it is watching, and that one day it may choose you. Whether it still exists as a physical path or as something else entirely, the answer may depend on whether you dare to travel it at night. So, if you ever find yourself driving through Pennsylvania and a thick fog rolls in on an empty country road, remember the stories. The Vanishing Road is never far away, and its mist may already be waiting for you. Our fourth story takes us to a small, quiet town in Pennsylvania, where an abandoned asylum looms on the outskirts like a shadow from the past. Its brick walls are cracked, windows broken, and the rusted gates swing in the wind with a haunting creak. To the casual passerby, it looks like nothing more than an old, empty building, but locals know better. For decades, the asylum housed patients who were often forgotten, left behind in the care of overworked staff. When it finally closed, the town rejoiced, or thought it had. But whispers began almost immediately. The patients, they said, never truly left. Strange sounds echo from within the crumbling halls, even when no one dares enter. Doors that should be locked open on their own, and shadows seem to move in the windows, always watching, always waiting. The stories that survive tell of screams carried on the wind, heard late at night by those living closest to the asylum. People report seeing figures at the broken windows, faces pale and hollow, staring out as if pleading for something or someone. Lights flicker inside the empty rooms at odd hours, though electricity has long been disconnected. The town learned quickly to respect the silence, avoiding the asylum after dark, fearful of what might still linger within. It's a place heavy with history and tragedy. The patients who once called it home endured fear, pain, and isolation. And locals insist that some of that energy never left, trapped, restless, whispering from the shadows. The asylum is no longer a building. It is a memory made flesh, a presence that refuses to die quietly, reminding the town that some pasts cannot be buried, some voices cannot be silenced, and some walls still listen. The asylum does not sleep, even in its abandonment. Those who live nearby speak of strange screams carried on the wind, high-pitched and guttural, echoing through the night. At times, shadowy figures appear in the broken windows, flickering in and out of view, watching anyone who dares approach. Some insist these figures are glimpses of the patients who never truly left, still trapped within the crumbling walls. Local authorities installed security cameras to monitor the site, but the footage often only deepens the mystery. Doors open and close by themselves, without wind or human intervention. Shadows dart across hallways when no one is present. Objects are moved inexplicably, and lights inside the building flicker at precise intervals, as if someone or something is controlling them. Even when the cameras malfunction, the chilling presence seems to remain, undeterred by technology. Visitors who attempt to explore the asylum report a sense of being watched constantly, their every movement tracked. Whispered voices, almost inaudible at first, grow louder as they move through the halls, calling out names or repeating phrases that make no sense. The air is heavy, thick with the weight of a past that refuses to rest. Even pets brought near the asylum behave erratically, growling at empty spaces, refusing to advance, as though they can sense the unseen entities lurking within. The building seems alive. It shifts subtly, hallways appearing longer than they should, rooms rearranging themselves in ways impossible for a human to accomplish. The whispers are patient, echoing from walls and ceilings, always observing, always waiting. And for those who dare step inside, the asylum's presence is undeniable. A living, breathing reminder that some places carry the pain of the past long after the last person has left. A team of paranormal investigators decided to spend a night inside the abandoned asylum, hoping to capture evidence of the unexplained. They set up cameras, audio recorders, and EVP devices, carefully documenting each hallway and room. The night began quietly, with only the wind rattling broken windows. But as darkness deepened, the atmosphere shifted. Their EVP recordings soon captured something chilling. Faint, garbled voices whispered messages, calling out names, repeating fragmented sentences, and even asking questions directly to the investigators. Some voices sounded distant and mournful, others urgent and angry, as if the building itself were speaking through those who had been trapped there decades ago. Then, one of the investigators reported seeing something that cannot be explained. In a dim hallway, a translucent figure appeared, an apparition of a patient, pale and disheveled. Its eyes were hollow, yet full of intent. The figure pointed directly at the investigator, as if singling them out, before vanishing entirely. The sudden presence sent chills through the team, leaving them shaken and unsure of what was real. Throughout the night, cameras caught fleeting shadows and objects moving on their own. Doors slammed unexpectedly, lights flickered, and the whispers persisted, growing louder as the hours passed. The investigators could feel eyes following them, unseen hands brushing past, and an oppressive weight pressing down, making the air feel suffocating. It was as if the asylum itself were alive, interacting with them, testing their courage, reminding them that some memories refuse to fade. By the end of the night, the team left with undeniable proof that the asylum held more than just echoes of the past. Something lingered there, something aware and restless, unwilling to leave. And for those who had dared step inside, the experience was a haunting reminder. The patients may have left their bodies behind, but their presence, their whispers, their pain remains. The asylum's walls hold secrets that seem almost alive. Deep scratches scar the plaster, etched in patterns that defy explanation. Some say they were made by the patients themselves, marks of desperation, fear, or anger left behind decades ago. Others whisper that they are messages, warnings from those who once lived within, trying to communicate across time. Locals tell an even darker tale. According to town legend, one doctor conducted strange, undocumented experiments within the asylum. There are no official records, nothing in the archives, but rumors persist. People claim the doctor pushed boundaries that should never have been crossed, experimenting on patients who had no voice, no one to protect them. Some believe that the energy left behind by these experiments, combined with the suffering of the patients, is what lingers in the halls today. Visitors report a constant, oppressive atmosphere. The air feels thick and heavy, and shadows seem to cling to corners, stretching unnaturally. Even when the building is empty, some claim they can hear soft scratching or tapping sounds coming from the walls, almost like someone moving unseen. The whispers are never far behind, growing louder in the old patient wings, repeating fragments of forgotten names and phrases. The combination of physical marks and whispered legends gives the asylum a sense of consciousness, as if it remembers every scream, every experiment, every act of cruelty committed within its walls. For those who enter, it is impossible to ignore the sense that the building itself is alive. Not in a literal sense, perhaps, but in a way that keeps the pain and presence of the past close, constant, and unsettling. In this small town, the asylum is more than just an abandoned building. It is a reminder that some horrors never truly end. Some walls remember, some experiments leave echoes, and some whispers will haunt you long after you step outside. Even today, the asylum stands abandoned, its crumbling walls and broken windows a constant reminder of a dark past. The townsfolk avoid the building, giving it a wide berth, as if its very presence could reach out and touch them. Those who have dared to approach, even just to peek inside, report a chilling sensation, the unmistakable feeling of being watched, even from outside. Visitors describe an oppressive weight pressing down, a prickle on the back of the neck, as if unseen eyes are following every move. Some swear they can hear faint whispers carried on the wind, echoes of voices long silenced. Even in the bright daylight, the building seems alive, shifting subtly in the corner of the eye, a silent observer waiting for its next visitor. Locals warn, the asylum does not forget. The patients who once lived there and the experiments conducted by the doctor may be gone in body, but their presence remains. The walls remember, the whispers endure, and anyone who ventures too close may feel the cold brush of the past, reminding them that some places are not meant to be disturbed. For the small town, the asylum is more than a relic. It is a lingering shadow. And for those who stumble upon it, knowingly or by chance, the lesson is clear. Some horrors are not just inside the building. They are in the way it watches, waits, and refuses to let go. Our fifth story takes us to a remote farmhouse tucked away in the rolling hills of Pennsylvania. The house appeared quiet and abandoned, with weathered wooden siding and broken shutters that swayed in the wind. A family, hoping to escape the bustle of city life, moved in, unaware of the dark history hidden within its walls. The farmhouse had a reputation that most people avoided mentioning. Previous owners, according to local whispers, had vanished without a trace. Some said they simply left in the night, never returning. Others claimed something in the house had claimed them. Despite these stories, the family thought it was just another abandoned property, until the strange events began. At first, it was small things. Doors creaking open when no one was near, the faint smell of smoke in empty rooms, footsteps echoing along the floorboards. But soon, the occurrences grew impossible to ignore. Lights flickered on and off, objects moved on their own, and chilling drafts swept through rooms even when windows were closed. The farmhouse seemed to have a presence, a quiet awareness of the family moving within it. Neighbors, when approached, were reluctant to speak. They would only shake their heads and warn. Some houses hold memories, and some memories refuse to leave. The family, determined at first to ignore the warnings, quickly realized they were not alone. Shadows appeared at the corners of rooms, glimpses of figures just beyond the light of lamps. Whispers echoed through hallways at night, repeating their names and sometimes phrases the family could not understand. The farmhouse, it seemed, was not merely haunted. It was alive with the echoes of the past. The vanished owners, the memories of lives once lived, and perhaps something far older, lingered in every creaking floorboard and every shadowed corner. The family was trapped in a place where the past refused to stay buried. And every night brought the unsettling reminder that some homes carry more than memories. They carry warnings. The farmhouse quickly proved it was far from ordinary. Doors slammed violently, sometimes without wind or touch, echoing through the empty halls. The family's livestock began dying under mysterious circumstances. Animals found cold and lifeless in the barn, with no signs of illness or injury. Even the family dog refused to enter certain rooms, growling at empty spaces as though sensing an unseen presence. The children were the first to notice the shadows. At night, they reported seeing figures peeking from corners, standing silently in doorways, or disappearing when approached. Their whispers and questions about the strange figures were dismissed at first. But soon, even the parents could feel the heavy weight of unseen eyes following them. Footsteps echoed in the hallways at odd hours, sometimes pacing, sometimes running. Objects shifted inexplicably. Chairs slightly moved, books fallen from shelves, and small items disappearing only to reappear days later in impossible locations. The farmhouse seemed to react to the family, almost aware of their presence, testing them, tormenting them, and asserting control over the home. Even the air inside felt different. Cold spots would form suddenly, frost appearing on windows in the dead of summer, while the rest of the house remained warm. Whispers drifted through rooms, faint at first, then more distinct, echoing through the walls. They were words and phrases no one could understand, repeating in unsettling patterns as if the house itself was speaking or warning. The family realized quickly that the farmhouse was not just haunted. It was a living reminder of those who vanished before them. Every shadow, every unexplained noise, every strange death felt deliberate, as if the house remembered its previous occupants and was now asserting its presence on the new family. Determined to understand what was happening, the family set up cameras throughout the farmhouse. At first, the footage seemed mundane, shadows shifting, doors moving. But then they captured something impossible. A figure appeared on video, walking through walls, gliding silently from one room to another, leaving no trace of how it moved. The air grew heavier each night, thick with tension and the sense that something unseen was observing their every move. Then came the night that changed everything. The father vanished. One moment he was checking the barn, the next he was gone, leaving only the echo of his voice calling from outside. The mother and children ran to the windows, calling back. But the farmhouse was surrounded by miles of empty fields. There were no neighbors close enough to see or hear. Yet his voice came, clear and urgent, pleading for help as if the house itself were mocking their inability to reach him. Panic set in. Doors slammed around them, and cold spots swept through the rooms. The children screamed, pointing at corners where shadows moved, flickering and twisting unnaturally. The mother felt hands brush past her, unseen but real, pulling her toward her hallways she did not remember entering. The farmhouse, it seemed, was no longer just haunted. It was active, asserting control, trapping the family in its web. By dawn, the father had not returned. His calls had stopped, replaced by silence that pressed down like a weight. The family realized, with growing horror, that the house had claimed him. Whether fully or partially, they could not say. And the farmhouse remained, silent for now, but patient, as if waiting for the next family to step inside and awaken its restless presence once more. As the family searched for answers, they discovered something chilling hidden beneath the floorboards. An old diary, yellowed with age and filled with cryptic entries. The previous owner had written of rituals meant to keep the house fed, describing strange ceremonies and offerings intended to satisfy an unseen presence. The words were frantic, full of fear, as if the writer had known the house demanded more than anyone could provide. Then came the strange markings in the soil. Each morning, as the family tended the farm, they noticed symbols etched into the dirt, geometric patterns, spirals, and shapes that seemed almost alive. No one could explain their origin, and attempts to wash them away proved futile. By evening, the symbols would reappear, perfectly drawn, as if the earth itself remembered them. Inside the house, the air remained heavy, thick with an unshakable sense of observation. Shadows shifted in corners where no light should reach, and whispers continued to drift through the halls. The combination of the diary, the symbols in the soil, and the house's inexplicable behaviors painted a terrifying picture. This farmhouse was not merely haunted. It was sustained by something hungry, ancient, and patient. The family could feel it watching, learning, feeding on fear and curiosity alike. Each night brought new sounds, new movements, and the overwhelming impression that the house was alive in a way beyond comprehension. The diary and the soil markings were proof that the farmhouse was more than a building. It was a trap, a presence that demanded attention, a sinister force that thrived on those who dared to inhabit it. In the quiet Pennsylvania hills, the farmhouse waits, and its appetite has never been satisfied. For those who stumble upon it, the warnings are clear. Some homes are not meant to be lived in, and some presences cannot be tamed. In the years since the family fled, the farmhouse has become a place avoided by locals entirely. Roads leading to the property are rarely traveled, and the few who dare approach speak of an oppressive atmosphere that seems to reach out and warn them away. Even from a distance, the house feels alive, watching and waiting for any who might step too close. Signs have been erected along the road. Do not enter. Some claim the warnings were placed not by authorities, but by the town itself, an unspoken agreement to leave the house alone. Locals whisper that the farmhouse hungers for attention, feeding on curiosity, fear, and anyone who dares set foot inside. Attempts to explore the property are met with strange sounds, shadows, and sudden cold spots, as if the house itself is enforcing the rules. The story of the ghostly farmhouse serves as a stark reminder. Some places are not meant for human habitation. The past, the vanished owners, the rituals, and the symbols. They linger still, embedded in the walls, the soil, and the air. And for those who stumble upon it today, the lesson is clear. The farmhouse does not forgive intrusion. It watches, it waits, and it continues to hunger. Our sixth story takes us to a seemingly ordinary Pennsylvania town, where life appears calm and the streets echo with the laughter of teenagers. Yet beneath this tranquil surface lies a chilling secret. A local park, beloved by the town's youth, carries a dark reputation. For decades, teens have vanished here, every few years, without warning and without a trace. The disappearances began decades ago. At first, the town dismissed them as ordinary missing persons cases, but patterns soon emerged. Each time, the teens were last seen in the park, walking along its trails, lingering by the old pavilion, or riding bikes past the dense tree line. Days would turn into weeks, weeks into months. Yet no bodies, no clues, No explanations ever surfaced. Locals whisper of a curse, though its origins are unclear. Some say it began when the land was first settled, when disputes and tragedies stained the soil. Others insist the park itself is alive with a malevolent presence, one that selects its victims carefully, always targeting the young, curious, and unsuspecting. Parents warn their children not to go near the park after dark, and even during the day, caution is advised. The empty swings creak without wind, shadows linger where there should be none, and the air carries an almost imperceptible tension, as if the ground remembers the disappearances, holding their echoes tightly in its grasp. Though the town continues to thrive and grow, the memory of the missing teens haunts every corner. And for anyone wandering through the park at the wrong time, the unspoken rule is clear. Stay alert, stay cautious, and hope the forest does not take notice of you. For once it does, you may join the cluster. Another name whispered in hushed tones around town. The park itself seems ordinary during the day, yet something unseen lingers in the shadows. Witnesses report seeing teens wandering near the park in a trance-like state, moving as if guided by an invisible force. Their expressions are vacant, their eyes distant, and sometimes they repeat words or phrases that make no sense. Passers-by have tried to approach them, only to find the teens vanish into thin air, leaving no trace. Animals sense it too. Dogs bark furiously at empty playgrounds, their growls directed at nothing human eyes can see. Swings move back and forth on their own, creaking in the stillness of the night, though the air is calm and windless. The old merry-go-round spins slowly, stopping suddenly as if aware of observers. Locals whisper that the park feeds on curiosity, luring teens closer with the promise of fun, only to trap them in something beyond comprehension. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the tree line, and the air grows heavy, pressing down on anyone who dares enter. Some claim they can hear faint footsteps following them, or whispering their names, drawing them toward the woods where the disappearances occur. Even in daylight, a strange chill hangs over the park, and the feeling of being watched is nearly impossible to shake. Those who have lingered too long report a suffocating sense of dread, as if the park itself is alive, patient, and waiting for the next teen to become part of its dark, unbroken cycle. One night, a group of friends dared each other to enter the infamous park after dark. They laughed nervously, telling themselves it was just a game, nothing more than bravado. But as they stepped past the tree line, the air grew colder, heavier, pressing down on them like an invisible hand. Shadows twisted unnaturally, stretching across the paths, and a faint whispering drifted from the woods. The teens wandered deeper, drawn toward the pavilion and swings that moved on their own. Laughter and distant music echoed, though no one else was there. One by one, they disappeared from view. Panic set in, but when one of the group finally stumbled out of the park, he appeared disoriented, pale, and trembling. He could not remember what had happened inside. His friends were gone, and when asked, he whispered in a frightened voice, "They're still playing. Games they can't leave." His words hung in the night, chilling anyone who heard them. No one else ever saw the missing teens again. It was as if the park had swallowed them completely, holding them in some alternate space, trapped in a cycle beyond human understanding. The survivors' testimony sent shivers through the town. People warned others never to enter the park at night, but the legend persisted. Every few years, another teen would vanish, following the same pattern, always leaving behind unanswered questions, broken families, and the haunting thought that the park was patient, intelligent, and always hungry for the next visitor. The park hides more than just shadows and whispers. Visitors have noticed strange carvings etched into the wooden benches, numbers, symbols, and patterns that seem meaningless at first glance. But over time, the locals realized a terrifying connection. The symbols often corresponded to the years when teens went missing. Some believe they are warnings, or perhaps records kept by an unseen entity, marking its victims. Even stranger are the names that appear around town. On walls, fences, and occasionally the sidewalks, the names of missing teens manifest seemingly overnight. Sometimes faint, sometimes bold, as if someone, or something, wanted the town to remember the lost, to bear witness to their disappearance. Parents and children alike avoid certain streets, fearful that acknowledgement might draw attention. Yet the names persist, etched in permanent memory. Visitors to the park report a suffocating presence. Shadows stretch unnaturally, whispers echo in patterns, and faint footsteps follow those who linger. Some claim the numbers carved into benches shift slightly overnight, rearranging themselves into new sequences. The forest seems to watch, absorbing every movement, and the cycle of disappearances continues, invisible yet undeniable. The park is more than a place for games or recreation. It is a trap, a puzzle, a remnant of some malevolent force that thrives on fear and attention. Every bench, every whisper, every symbol serves as a reminder. The missing are never truly gone, and the park's hunger never rests. For those who enter, it is a warning. Some games are not meant to be played, and some forces do not forgive curiosity. The park remains a place shrouded in fear and mystery. Locals speak in hushed tones, insisting that the park selects its victims, choosing curious or unsuspecting teens with an unseen hand. Parents warn their children never to go near the trails after dark, and even during the day, caution is advised for anyone passing by. Visitors who ignore the warnings often feel a heavy presence, shadows following their every move and whispers brushing past their ears. The swings creak, the benches hold strange symbols, and the air itself seems charged with an energy that refuses to be ignored. For outsiders, the message is clear. This is not a place for games, not a place for exploration, and certainly not a place for curiosity. The disappearances continue, a cycle unbroken for decades, leaving behind unanswered questions and the lingering fear that the park is patient, intelligent, and always watching. For the town, the legend serves as both warning and memory. The missing teens are never truly gone. Their presence felt in every shadow, every whisper, and every silent corner of the cursed park. And for anyone considering venturing too close, the lesson is chillingly simple. Once the park notices you, it may never let you go. Our final story brings us to a historic Pennsylvania town, where the centerpiece is an old clock tower that has stood for generations. Its stone walls are weathered, the hands of the clock frozen in time. The townspeople long ago stopped expecting it to function, yet some say it still chimes, at hours no one could predict, echoing through the streets when the town is fast asleep. The clock tower has long been associated with strange happenings. Shadows are reported moving across the walls, stretching and bending in ways that defy logic. On quiet nights, people walking near the tower have felt a sudden chill, as if unseen eyes were tracking them, following their steps. The town square, which should feel welcoming, instead holds an air of unease, the tower looming like a silent guardian, or perhaps a sentinel of something far darker. Locals whisper that the tower is connected to a series of unexplained events over the years. Townsfolk report lights flickering in the clock room despite it being abandoned, and some have glimpsed shadowy figures pacing behind the broken clock face. Children are warned to stay away after dark, and even adults approach cautiously, especially when the chimes ring at odd hours with no wind, no mechanics, and no explanation. The mystery deepens with tales of the clock, stopping abruptly during tragic events, only to resume strangely hours later, often accompanied by sightings of a dark figure atop the tower. Witnesses describe it as tall, human-like, but indistinct. A shadow with presence, as if the tower itself manifests something that watches, waits, and remembers. For the townspeople, the clock tower is more than a historic relic. It is a place where time feels suspended, where shadows move with intent, and where the past and present intersect in ways that are unsettling and inexplicable. And for anyone passing through the town at night, the warning is clear. When the clock chimes at its own hours, pay attention and pray you are not noticed by the shadow it protects. The clock tower seemed silent by day, but at night it came alive in ways that unsettled even the bravest townspeople. Shadows moved along the walls without any source of light, stretching and twisting as if they had a will of their own. The movement was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but over time it became impossible to ignore. It was as if the building itself were breathing, watching, testing anyone nearby. People walking past the tower report hearing faint whispers carried on the wind. The words are soft, almost melodic, yet insistent, calling out to them. Many describe a strange compulsion to climb the tower, to reach its highest point, even when they know it's dangerous. Those who resist feel an icy pressure at their back, as if unseen hands are urging them forward, and a sense of dread follows every step they take. Dogs refuse to enter the square at night, barking at invisible figures and trembling in the shadow of the tower. Lights in nearby buildings flicker inexplicably, and the air grows heavy, thick with anticipation and fear. The whispers intensify as one approaches the base of the tower, repeating phrases that seem to echo from some other time. Climb, climb. The combination of moving shadows and compelling whispers creates a chilling sense of inevitability. Anyone who lingers feels the weight of unseen eyes, the tug of a presence that wants them to ascend, to confront whatever dwells atop the tower. And for those who have ventured too close, even briefly, the memory of that night lingers forever. A reminder that the tower is not just a relic of history, but a place where darkness moves with purpose, and time itself seems to obey the shadow within. One night, a man walking through the town heard the tower chime at an hour when it shouldn't have. The sound was deep and resonant, echoing through the empty streets, and somehow irresistible. Compelled by the chime and the whispers he could barely hear, he approached the base of the tower. Onlookers watched as he began to climb the narrow, creaking staircase that led to the top. Minutes passed. Then, without warning, he vanished. His shadow, cast against the tower's walls by the moonlight, remained visible for a short time, stretching and twisting unnaturally. But the man himself was gone, leaving no trace of where he might have gone or how he had disappeared. The witnesses were frozen in fear, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. It was as if the shadow existed independently, a ghostly remnant of the man, detached from the reality of his body. The tower, silent again, seemed to swallow the event whole. The echoes of his climb lingered in the empty streets, and the chime faded, leaving an oppressive stillness. Locals would later report that the shadow sometimes appeared near the top of the tower, moving as though climbing or pacing. But the man himself was never found. It was as if the tower had claimed him, leaving only a spectral reminder that some presences are not meant to be confronted, and some shadows are more real than the bodies they mirror. The chilling lesson spread quickly through the town. The clock tower was not merely an old relic, but a living sentinel, capable of luring, ensnaring, and erasing anyone who dared respond to its call. And for those who witnessed the man's disappearance, the image of his shadow without a body would haunt them forever, a silent warning of the darkness that dwells atop the old tower. After the man's disappearance, a group of curious townsfolk and investigators entered the clock room, seeking answers. Hidden among the dust and old gears, they discovered a journal, its pages brittle with age. The entries were cryptic, written in a trembling hand, describing someone trapped between time. The writer spoke of shadows that moved independently, of whispers that compelled people to ascend the tower, and of a chilling presence that consumed anyone who responded to the clock's call after midnight. Local legend soon took on a darker tone. It was said that the clock tower does more than simply mark hours. It traps the souls of those who hear it strike after midnight. Once someone responds to its chime, their body may vanish, leaving only shadows or echoes behind. Over the years, townsfolk claimed to see figures pacing the top of the tower, translucent and distorted, glimpses of those lost between time and reality. The journal also mentioned that the clock's mechanisms were somehow tied to these occurrences, though no one could explain how. Each entry hinted at an intelligence within the tower itself, a force patient and deliberate, observing who dared approach and claiming victims according to rules that defied human understanding. Even today, the legend persists. The journal, preserved carefully in the town's historical archive, serves as a chilling reminder. The clock tower is not just an old structure, but a sentinel of shadows and a prison for lost souls. And for anyone who hears its chime at an odd hour, the warning is unmistakable. The strike of the clock may mark the beginning of a journey from which you may never return. Since the incidents, the town has treated the clock tower with a mixture of fear and reverence. Streets near the tower are quiet after dark, and locals avoid even passing through the square when the hour grows late. They whisper to each other, warning that the tower chooses who it watches, and that curiosity can be deadly. The structure looms silently, its frozen hands a reminder of the time that is past and the time that it keeps. Even when the town sleeps, some claim they can hear faint chimes echoing through the empty streets, striking hours that do not exist on any clock. And the shadows, those elusive forms, remain, shifting, stretching, and waiting. As the legend warns, the clock tower does not forget. It watches, it waits, and it claims attention. So the next time you hear a chime in the dead of night, remember this story. Perhaps it is not just a bell you hear. Perhaps it is calling you. We've journeyed through 7 disturbing tales from small towns in Pennsylvania. From haunted factories and ghostly farmhouses to vanishing roads, mysterious lights, and the shadowy clock tower. Each story a chilling reminder that what seems peaceful on the surface can hide darkness just beneath. These are not tales from books or movies. Locals whisper them in hushed tones, recounting real events that defy explanation. Every shadow, every unexplained disappearance, every haunting echo is part of the quiet terror that lingers in these towns. So, as you sit here listening tonight, ask yourself, Pennsylvania may seem quiet, calm, and ordinary, but some doors, roads, and buildings are never truly empty. Would you dare to visit them? Would you step inside and see what hides in the shadows, or hear the chime that should not exist? If these stories sent a shiver down your spine, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more real horror stories that will keep you up at night. Because in places like these, the line between reality and fear is thinner than you think. And the next story could be waiting just around the corner. Pause. Let eerie silence linger for effect. ..